Today's episode is brought to you by HID Mobile Access, the most secure and convenient way to open doors with the device you already use every day. With HID, organizations get flexible, future-ready solutions that easily integrate into workplace and tenant experience apps, creating a seamless journey from street to suite. If you're ready to modernize your access control experience, try it for yourself. Sign up for a free trial at hidglobal.com/solutions and click on Mobile Access.
I recently had an opportunity to visit Meta's campus in Fremont, California, alongside Genetec, who was hosting an End User Summit for some of their technology companies in the Bay Area. I was truly blown away by the quality of information shared in that room. You know, the best industry events are rarely the ones built around polished answers. They are the ones that create enough trust in the room for people to ask better questions. That was my biggest takeaway from the Genetec End User Summit in the Bay Area, again hosted at Meta's campus and organized by my longtime industry friend Anthony Navarez. I had the opportunity to participate in a panel discussion on access control modernization alongside some other industry professionals, but the value of the day extended well beyond any single session. The event brought together end users, technology partners, manufacturers, and security leaders for a practical conversation about where the security industry is headed and what it will take to modernize responsibly. Now, I'm going to be intentionally careful with specifics. I did sign an NDA as part of my visit to Meta's campus, but part of what makes an event like this feel valuable is the trust that's created in the room, and certain operational details should certainly remain there. Still, there were several broader themes that are worth discussing because they reflect where the industry is moving, the importance of peer-to-peer learning, the growing role of data and interoperability, the practical emergence of artificial intelligence in security operations, and the continued shift of access control into a broader digital identity conversation. One of the most important reminders from the day was that security professionals benefit greatly from hearing how their peers are solving problems, even when those peers come from very different industries. In the room, there were life sciences companies, technology companies, financial services firms, universities, healthcare systems, and media organizations. And they all operate in very different environments, but many of their core challenges are surprisingly familiar. They are trying to modernize legacy systems without disrupting the business. They're managing employees, visitors, contractors, vendors, and other user populations. They're working through questions of governance, data quality, user experience, cloud adoption, automation, and risk. That kind of cross-industry conversation matters because physical security can sometimes become too insular. We tend to compare access control systems to other access control systems, video platforms to other video platforms, and credentials to other credentials. End users, however, often wrestle with broader operational questions. How do we make security easier to manage at scale? How do we reduce friction without weakening controls? How do we connect systems that were never originally designed to work together? And how do we prepare for new technologies without becoming distracted by the hype? Those questions point to a larger reality. Modernization is not simply a technology refresh, replacing hardware, moving systems to the cloud, adding AI, deploying mobile credentials, or integrating new platforms may all be part of that modernization strategy, but none of them are the strategy by themselves. True modernization is about building a security operating model that is better aligned with how organizations actually function today. That operating model depends on fundamentals that are not always glamorous, but are absolutely essential. Security leaders need to understand where identity begins inside their organization, who owns access decisions, which systems act as the source of truth, how data moves between platforms, and where manual processes create risk or inefficiency. They need to evaluate where their access policies reflect how people actually work, whether their visitor or contractor workflows are consistent, and whether systems can support that level of integration and automation that the organization expects. In that sense, the most successful modernization efforts are not driven only by new tools. They're driven by better architecture, cleaner data, clearer ownership, and a more disciplined approach to governance. Technology can accelerate progress, but it can't always compensate for a poorly defined process or unreliable data. In fact, The more connected security systems become, the more important those foundations become. That point was especially relevant in the conversations around AI. The industry is clearly moving past the theoretical phase and into more practical use cases, but the most valuable discussions were not about AI replacing security professionals or magically running a security program. The more useful conversation was about how AI can help teams search, summarize, prioritize, detect patterns, reduce noise, and make large volumes of operational information way more usable. That's where AI becomes interesting for physical security. Security teams are often overwhelmed by data from video systems, access control platforms, alarms, sensors, reports, and other operational workflows. The challenge is not always a lack of information. More often, the challenge is turning information into timely, useful action. AI has the potential to help operators and analysts make sense of the information faster, but only if it's deployed with the right guardrails. Governance will matter just as much as capability. Security leaders should be asking how AI-generated insights are reviewed, how decisions are documented, what data is being used, how bias or error is handled, and where human judgment remains required. Artificial intelligence should be viewed as an assistive capability, not a substitute for accountability. The question is not simply, how do we use AI? The better question is, where are our teams overwhelmed, and how can intelligent tools help them make better decisions faster? The other theme I kept coming back to throughout the day was the evolution of access control into a broader identity conversation. For decades, access control has largely been discussed in terms of doors, readers, credentials, patterns, permission, and software. Those components are still central to the system, but the conversation is expanding. The door is no longer just a physical security checkpoint. Increasingly, it is becoming an identity decision point. That shift has major implications for security professionals. The traditional access control question was relatively simple. Does the credential have access? The next generation of physical security asks a more complete question. Should this person, with this identity, in this context, be allowed through right now? That question connects physical security to a much broader ecosystem. Human resources systems, identity providers, mobile devices, workplace applications, visitor platforms, cloud services, tenant experience tools, and access control systems are all becoming part of the same conversation. Mobile credentials are one visible example of that shift, but they're not the whole story. The larger story is digital identity and how it moves through both digital and physical environments. This is why access control modernization cannot be treated as a narrow credential decision. The credential matters, don't get me wrong, but it is only one part of the identity lifecycle. Security leaders need to think about how identity is created, verified, provisioned, used, updated, revoked, and governed. They need to consider how physical access aligns with logical access, how user roles are defined, and how access rights change as people move through their organization. And by the way, that is not an easy transition. Physical security systems were not all built with this level of connectivity in mind, and organizations vary widely in maturity, infrastructure, budget, risk tolerance, and operational complexity. A corporate campus, hospital, university, manufacturing site, multifamily property, government facility, and small business will all have different needs and different constraints. There's no single roadmap that applies to everyone. Still, the direction is becoming clear. Physical security is moving toward a more connected, data-driven, identity-aware operating model. The programs that thrive in this next chapter will not be the ones that chase every new feature first. They'll be the ones that ask the better questions, build stronger foundations, and understand how security fits into the broader enterprise. And that's what made the Genetec End User Summit valuable. It was not just a series of product conversations or trend discussions. It was a chance to step back and look at the larger forces reshaping the industry. AI, cloud, identity, interoperability, user experience, data governance, and operational scale. More importantly, it was a chance for practitioners to compare notes in a setting where the conversation could be honest, practical, and grounded in real-world complexity. I left that event feeling encouraged, not because every question had been answered, but because the right questions were being asked. Physical security is entering a more interesting and more demanding era. The work ahead will require better technology, but it will also require better strategy, better collaboration, better governance, and a clearer understanding of what security is being asked to become. The future of physical security is not one product, one platform, or one trend. It is a more connected operating model, one where identity, data, automation, and user experience all play a larger role. And for security professionals, that means the conversation is getting bigger.
Today's episode is brought to you by HID Mobile Access, the most secure and convenient way to open doors with the device you already use every day. With HID, organizations get flexible, future-ready solutions that easily integrate into workplace and tenant experience apps, creating a seamless journey from street to suite. If you're ready to modernize your access control experience, try it for yourself. Sign up for a free trial at hidglobal.com/solutions and click on Mobile Access.